Hi there, Isabel Evans here again with a vlog for the Scottish Testing Group. Last time I talked a little bit about my research, the methods I'd used, and two of the papers that have come out. And I was talking about how people using test tools and test automation sometimes feel stuck in limbo with magical solutions and sometimes feel scared, frustrated, but sometimes quietly proud of what they've achieved. And what I'm going to talk about today is the findings that I put through in a paper called Test Tools: An Illusion of Usability. Now, if you've been listening to the previous vlog, you will perhaps remember that I said that I came into this research initially because I thought there might be a usability problem with test tools and automation. And indeed, there are usability challenges and quality and use challenges and concerns and issues. And of all the different things that people commented on, usability and quality and use was by far the largest number of comments, more than about managerial challenges and issues, more than about any of the other technical issues. Usability and quality and use of tools and automation, it was the thing that people most talked about as what they wanted from the tools. It was the thing that frustrated them most when they didn't get it. And in particular, looking at quality and use, the interaction between the usability of the tool and other software attributes that that tool might have. Now, management was also mentioned quite a lot as being something that was important, and that management and organisational challenges were certainly impediments to successful tool implementation. And other technical issues, of which the three mentioned most were the portability of the tool, its performance and its maintainability. And certainly poor maintainability of the test set, the inability to maintain and change tests as the software under test was changing, came up over and over again, that people were saying tools looked usable, they had cool interfaces, they looked really good. But actually, once they'd been used for a bit, it was almost impossible to keep those tests maintained and up to date. And that was a real cause of frustration. So, there are problems and challenges with the usability of tools and automation. But there are also some efforts to address those usability challenges, some of which may well be very successful, but there were also a number of illusions which we identified. The first illusion that some of the both providers and purchasers of tools, the first illusion that people were under was that having a pretty interface is enough, that it's the interface, the UI, that drives usability. And it just is not sufficient. It's necessary to have a good interface, of course, but that's not the only thing that affects the usability. And so people were talking about the tools as actually not being that useful when you started getting into using them. They did not support people's workflows in a useful manner. Attractiveness being valued over actual usefulness. And if I was going to be cynical, then I might say you can sell a tool on its attractiveness and not be there to pick up the pieces when it's less useful after it's been used for a while. Let's not be cynical. The second illusion that both tools providers and automation providers, whether in-house or vendors or open source, that people reporting their experiences that they or their user group, their persona group, hadn't been taken into account by the people designing the tool. So on the one hand, you've got people who are very technically able, saying that the tool they've been presented with was insufficiently flexible and they couldn't get in there and manipulate the tool and the data in the way that they wanted to achieve the end that they wanted to achieve. And on the other hand, you've got people who are not so technically skilled, did not have such strong programming skills, saying that they felt that tools and automation had been designed for people with high technical skills and high programming skills, and that they were actually unable to use them. And going back to the last vlog, this is where people started expressing frustration and where people started talking about being scared. When you're designing a tool, there's not just one persona, there's not just one user group, and this is true for any of the tools that we're producing, and it's just as much true for testing tools. You need to know what the different groups are who need to be supported by that tool. They may need different interfaces, they may need nuances within the interface to aid them in particular tasks, or allow them to be more or less flexible. And for as long as I've been in IT, I've heard people talk about power users versus learning users, and that they would want to use a software tool in a different way. So why are we not doing this in our test tools? I find that very interesting. And actually, one person I interviewed during the research was actually somebody who works in user experience design. And he said to me, you know, the tools we have in UX are much, much better than the software testing tools because we wouldn't put up with it. And I think as a community, maybe we need to think about that maybe we need to put our requirements down, our demands, what we want, much more strongly, and not simply put up with what we're given. And the third illusion that we identified in the data was, it's related to the last two, a neglect to support change and growth. So an illusion that people are always going to use the tool the same way that they use it on day one, with the same data and with the same level of skill and to solve the same problems. Whereas actually the people using the tool will change and learn over time and want to use it in a different way, and will want paths to lead them from beginner to power user. And also the software under test is going to change, and some of that's going to be quite radical, and therefore the direction of the tests may need to change, the way they're designed, the content of them, in all sorts of ways. And if the tool isn't flexible to allow that change in growth, both in the people using the tool and in the tests that are being either run or checked or analysed or reported on, the tool is not going to stand up to long-term use. So what I want to say to you in this vlog is the usability of testing tools and test automation is necessary. But usability is not just about naive users, it's also about power users. Usability is necessary, but it's not sufficient. It needs to be applied correctly. And it leads me to wonder if the tools designers, whether in-house, open source, or vendors, how well they actually understand quality in use and user experience. They may understand it very well, or they may not. But I have a concern there that the illusions of usability are leading us to have tools and automation that have been designed and built in ways that are not appropriate for long-term use, that don't support long-term maintainability, don't support different persona groups within the testing community, and are based on looking cool rather than on actually delivering support for the workflows that we as testers have. I hope you found that interesting, and I'd encourage you to go and look at the paper, Test Tools and Illusion of Usability, and see some of the quotes and some of the data that's in there. Thank you very much.